Seems like you have owned and use extremely well vulnerability as a superpower of sorts on your show and quite possibly elsewhere in your life. Let's talk about one component of that, which is addiction. When did you first think of yourself as having a problem with any type of substance abuse or substance use?
Throughout my using, but I had a different point of view, which is my heroes at that time were Bukowski. They were other romantic drunks. They were Waylon Jennings. And I had this fantasy, this romantic fantasy that I could do something artistically that would be impactful enough that it would excuse all of my shittiness, right? So like Waylon's got several songs basically apologizing for cheating on his wife, and it's hard to be in love with a fun-loving man. And Bukowski would put these books out, and it kind of excused what a horrendous piece of shit he was in his real life. So I think I very much was looking to be a fuck up, but maybe one that was funny enough that people overlooked it, or I wrote something important enough that people would give me a pass. And so that was kind of my fantasy. And on some level, it worked a bit. I think people were willing to be around me more than some other people that are less funny. But I had underestimated that I ultimately suffered. I ultimately was demoralized and pessimistic and defeated, and that it really wasn't about all the people around me I could keep in my orbit, that I ultimately had to be with myself all the time. And so I had an awareness that I drank too much. That was quite obvious. And I knew that I used cocaine far more frequently than the Surgeon General would recommend. And I didn't care until, I had a few attempts at getting sober, and I could put together 2 or 3 months. I generally did it because I knew I couldn't use the way I used and work in movies, and I cared more about that. So I would generally get sober from movies, and then in between movies, I would go out. But I had my most profound moment was I was about to start this movie Zathura. I knew I had to get sober for it. I thought, I'm going to go to Hawaii for a week vacation with a buddy before I start, because I know I'm going to be getting sober. And I specifically went to Hawaii because I was under the impression they didn't have cocaine there. It's very hard to get cocaine there, and I didn't want to die. But they have other stuff there, and I found crystal meth and all this stuff. And by the time I left that trip, I had a layover in San Francisco, and I was so physically sick from that week. I had been in a car accident. I had smoked meth for a few days. I was in so much physical anguish that when I got to San Francisco, I really needed to get down like 3 or 4 Jack and Diets to make the flight to LA. And I had been in AA at that point. So I'm so afraid someone from AA is going to run into me at this airport. And so I'm hiding in the corner of this bar, and there's the proverbial mirror. It actually was there. And I'm hiding, and people recognized me. So that dream had come true. I was about to make the most amount of money I ever made in my life, starting that movie, an amount of money that I thought would solve all things. And I was the most scared, most depressed, most suicidal I had ever been with all the things I had wanted to get. And that was a very, very scary moment. And I realized, wow, it really isn't about those things. I had told myself, as I think a lot of people do, like, if I got some money, I'd be happy. If I got this girl, I'd be happy. If I got this job, I'd be happy. And I was lucky enough to get all those things, and I was very unhappy. And so I really had to ask why. And I had to actually figure out how to be happy, because it wasn't those things. They help, for sure. I don't want them to be taken away, but I was at my shittiest point with all the things I had set out to get.
Where did you land asking those questions in terms of what makes you happy? What were the levers that mattered? What were the ingredients that mattered?
Well, I've slowly cobbled together a little checklist for me. I think, shame. I just had a decade of shames, all kinds of deplorable behaviors while fucked up. So that was a big component. And then really self-esteem, right? I was trying to get my value from a lot of outside validation, and then I got it, and I saw the same person in the mirror. I had also dated girls that I was convinced if that girl liked me, well, clearly that would prove I was desirable and worthy of wanting. And then every time I'd look in the mirror at their house, same piece of shit. And so over years of being sober, my list really became, have I exercised? I can't put too fine a point on my belief in exercise. I'm a zealot about it. I'm annoying. If I had to pick one thing in my life, it would be that I exercise. I've just never felt worse after an hour of exercise than I felt before. So exercise is huge. Have I gone to a meeting? That's huge. Have I been of service to somebody I don't want to be? And in general, when I feel terrible, if I ask myself those three things, if those three things happen today, they've never happened. I've never done those three things and been in major discontent. That for me is kind of my checklist.